SpaceX just handed China the biggest gift ever. Ship 36 exploded at Starbase yesterday. While Elon's cleaning up the mess, China fired 9 engines for 45 seconds. Their best test yet. Here's the problem. SpaceX can't test any ships for months. Their only facility is destroyed. But China? They're ready for orbital launch this year. So how did one explosion flip the entire space race? And what does this mean for America's dominance in space? Let's dive right in. The moment everything changed. 7:30 a.m., Starbase, Texas. Ship 36 sits on the test stand, ready for what should be routine. Just another static fire test. Engineers run final checks, everything looks normal. Then, boom. The explosion rips through the morning air like thunder. But this isn't just any explosion. This fireball burns so hot, so massive, that weather radar picks it up. Meteorologists are tracking a rocket failure like it's a hurricane. Metal screams through the air, concrete cracks, and in that single moment, SpaceX's dominance in space just took a devastating hit. But here's what nobody realizes yet. While American engineers stare at the wreckage, China is celebrating. The China factor nobody saw coming. 7,000 miles away in China's Gobi Desert, something incredible is happening. Landspace, a company most Americans can't even pronounce, fires up 9 methane engines. Not 1, not 3, 9 engines roaring in perfect harmony. 45 seconds of flawless combustion. No explosions, no failures, just raw, controlled power that announces China's arrival as a space superpower. And here's the kicker. They're not even trying to hide what they're doing. The Juke-3 rocket? It's a straight-up copy of Starship. Same stainless steel body, same methane fuel, same reusable design. China isn't just copying SpaceX anymore, they're beating them at their own game, while SpaceX can't even test a rocket without it exploding. But wait, how did we get here? How did one explosion flip the entire space race upside down? The ghost of Amos 6 returns. September 1st, 2016, Cape Canaveral. Another static fire, another explosion, another $200 million satellite destroyed in seconds. The culprit? COPVs, composite overwrap pressure vessels. Think of them as super strong gas tanks storing pressurized helium inside the rocket's oxygen tank. When oxygen leaked in and froze, it became a bomb. Elon Musk called it SpaceX's most difficult failure ever. The explosion nearly killed the company. Investors panicked. NASA questioned their partnership. SpaceX was bleeding money and credibility. But they learned. They redesigned everything. New COPVs, better procedures, stricter safety protocols. The result? Over 200 successful Falcon 9 launches. 0 COPV failures since 2016. So what went wrong with Ship 36? Here's where it gets terrifying. Starship uses a completely different COPV system. Instead of helium in oxygen tanks, it uses liquid nitrogen distributed throughout the entire vehicle. The engineering is more complex. The failure modes are unknown. Did SpaceX just repeat their biggest mistake? Or is this something entirely new and potentially worse? Surveying the battlefield. Walking through Starbase today feels like touring a war zone. The static fire stand, a massive fortress of concrete and steel, survived. Barely. Black scorch marks stretch across the pad like burned fingers, telling the story of uncontrolled destruction. The water deluge system that protects equipment from engine heat? Obliterated. The methane ground support equipment that feeds fuel to rockets? Destroyed. A massive tent structure 300 feet away? Vaporized completely. But here's what survived, and this is crucial. The underground piping network appears intact. The concrete foundations held. The nose cone testing rig took damage but didn't collapse. Still, the math is brutal. Massey's test site, SpaceX's only facility for static firing Starship upper stages, is offline. For months, ships 37 and 38 sit complete in the factory. Billions of dollars in hardware with nowhere to test. Production continues, but the bottleneck just became absolute. Every day SpaceX can't test, China gets closer. China's calculated gamble. While SpaceX calculates repair costs, China is calculating victories. Land Space isn't building just one rocket. They're planning weekly launches within 3 years. That's the same pace SpaceX achieved with Falcon 9, after a decade of development. Think about this timeline. 3 years ago, China's commercial space sector was a joke, government-controlled, slow, bureaucratic, technologically inferior. Today, they're running private companies that successfully test engines SpaceX struggles with. But here's the twist that changes everything. China might actually beat SpaceX to operational reusability. 2K3's first orbital flight is scheduled for this year. If successful, it'll dock with China's space station. While SpaceX rebuilds test stands, China will be proving they can build, launch, and operate complex spacecraft. The implications are staggering. The technical nightmare. SpaceX's entire philosophy depends on one thing: rapid iteration. Build, test, fail, learn, repeat. That cycle just shattered. Every Starship must complete cryo-testing and static fires before flight. Without Massies, that's impossible. SpaceX could modify Pad 1 for ship testing, but the risk is enormous. One failure there destroys the entire launch infrastructure. Years of setbacks, billions in losses. Meanwhile, China's approach is methodical. Careful, less flashy than Musk's Mars dreams, but more practical. They're focused on profitable applications, satellite deployment, space station operations, lunar missions that actually make money. Less ambitious? Maybe. More realistic? Absolutely. And while SpaceX gambles with explosions, China builds reliability. The strategic earthquake. This explosion represents more than technical failure. It's a crack in American space dominance. For 2 decades, SpaceX has led through speed and innovation. Now they're in defensive mode while competitors advance. NASA's Artemis program depends on Starship for lunar missions. The Pentagon relies on SpaceX for national security launches. Commercial customers have invested billions in Starship's promises. One explosion made all of that uncertain. But SpaceX has survived worse, right? They were days from bankruptcy in 2008. They've exploded more rockets than any private company in history. Each time they came back stronger. Except this time is different. The race nobody expected. The space race of the 21st century isn't between countries. It's between companies. And the rules just changed. China's strategy is brilliant in its simplicity. Don't try to out-innovate SpaceX. Just be more reliable, more consistent, more trustworthy. While Musk tweets about Mars colonies, China builds working spacecraft. While SpaceX explodes test vehicles, China perfects manufacturing. While America argues about budgets, China invests in results. The question keeping defense officials awake at night: what if methodical beats brilliant? The deeper game. There's something else happening here, something that makes this explosion even more significant. China isn't just copying SpaceX's rockets. They're copying SpaceX's business model. Private companies, venture capital funding, rapid development cycles. But they're adding something SpaceX lacks: government backing without government bureaucracy. Land space gets state support when needed, but operates with private efficiency. They have patient capital, long-term planning, and national strategic goals. SpaceX has quarterly earnings calls and impatient investors. Guess which approach builds sustainable space programs? The unanswered questions. So where does this leave us? Can SpaceX repair Massies before China reaches orbit? Will the lessons from Ship 36 actually accelerate development? Can American innovation overcome Chinese determination? Here's the question that terrifies space experts. What happens if China gets to operational reusability first? Suddenly, every assumption about American space leadership crumbles. NASA's partnerships become questionable. Military contracts get reconsidered. Commercial customers start looking east. The explosion at Starbase wasn't just metal and fire, it was the sound of assumptions breaking. While SpaceX sweeps up debris, China builds the future. The moment of truth. This is the inflection point. The moment when space leadership hangs in the balance. SpaceX built their reputation on pushing boundaries, taking risks, moving fast, and breaking things. That strategy worked when they were the only game in town. But now there are competitors, serious competitors with serious money and serious capabilities. The race for space supremacy just entered a new phase. And for the first time since the 1960s, America isn't guaranteed to win. One explosion changed everything. The question now isn't whether SpaceX can recover. It's whether they can recover fast enough. So here we are. One explosion, two superpowers, and the future of space hanging in the balance. SpaceX revolutionized space travel by moving fast and breaking things. But what happens when breaking things breaks you? China's playing a different game entirely. Methodical, patient, strategic. The space race of the 2020s isn't about who gets there first anymore. It's about who stays there longest. Who builds the infrastructure that defines the next century of human expansion beyond Earth? But here's what I keep thinking about. What if we're witnessing the most important pivot in space history? What if this moment, right now, determines whether humanity's next giant leap speaks English or Mandarin? I want to know what you think. Are we overreacting to one test failure? Or is this the wake-up call America needed? Drop your thoughts below because this conversation is just getting started. And if you want to stay ahead of every twist in this cosmic chess match, you know what to do. The next chapter of this story is already being written. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Because in space, the next explosion might not be an accident. It might be the sound of barriers breaking. Blue Origin is landing on the moon in August 2025. SpaceX? Not until 2026 at the earliest. How did Jeff Bezos quietly outmaneuver Elon Musk in the lunar race? While everyone watched Starship test flights, Blue Origin locked in their launch date, a full year ahead. SpaceX needs 16 fuel transfers in orbit just to reach the moon. Blue Origin, one simple launch, straight there. No complex refueling that could fail. But here's what nobody's talking about. SpaceX is building a 50-meter lunar skyscraper. Blue Origin chose a compact cargo truck. Two completely different strategies. Which approach will actually work? And what does this mean for NASA's timeline to put humans back on the moon? Let's dive right in. The truth hit NASA's budget documents like a bombshell. May 30th, a date that changed the entire lunar race forever. Buried deep in those fiscal year 2026 papers, SpaceX's timeline just collapsed. Their critical fuel transfer test, delayed until late 2026, that's the moment Starship either proves it can refuel in space or fails spectacularly. Blue Origin saw this coming. While everyone watched SpaceX's test explosions, they quietly locked in August 2025, a full year ahead. The documents revealed something shocking. NASA's betting on two completely different strategies. One company chose the impossible, the other chose precision. What NASA didn't expect? Overwrite Sentin, Blue Origin's secret weapon, was about to crush SpaceX's master plan. The death trap SpaceX built for themselves? 16 fuel transfers in the vacuum of space at 17,500 miles per hour. This is SpaceX's nightmare scenario. Every single refueling mission is a potential disaster waiting to happen. Liquid methane at minus 182 degrees, floating around like deadly droplets in zero gravity. One tiny mistake, one failed connection, one temperature spike, and billions of dollars become space debris. The brutal math? 16 chances to fail. 16 opportunities for catastrophe. Blue Origin needs 0. They launch fully fueled from Earth. No risky orbital ballet required. SpaceX gambled everything on the most dangerous refueling operation ever attempted. Blue Origin chose the opposite path, and it's about to pay off in ways nobody expected. The genius strategy that crushed SpaceX's dreams. While Elon built a space skyscraper, Jeff built a precision sniper rifle. Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark 1 isn't trying to impress anyone. It's designed for one mission: land exactly where it needs to, within 100 meters, every single time. That's like threading a needle from New York to Los Angeles, from 240,000 miles away. The strategy is pure genius. New Glenn launches, flies straight to the moon, lands perfectly. No stopping for gas, no complex orbital maneuvers, No 16 chances to fail. SpaceX chose spectacle. Blue Origin chose results. But this victory comes with a price that could destroy everything they've built. The fuel from hell that could kill everything. Here's Blue Origin's darkest secret. Their engines run on liquid hydrogen. Their engine most dangerous rocket fuel ever created. Minus 253 degrees Celsius, colder than deep space itself, colder than anything on Pluto's frozen surface. This fuel is so volatile that even the tiniest heat leak causes instant evaporation. In space,